Hey everybody, this is Lorelia. Welcome to another episode of the Never Lose a Deal podcast. This podcast is for real estate investors who want to leverage funding and financing to expand their real estate portfolio. And so, primarily on this channel, I talk a lot about creative financing, and that is what I'm going to talk to you about today. But before I get started, always want to shout out my sponsors. Today's show is sponsored by Leverage Portfolio Capital. They are specialists in asset based lending for real estate investors. So, of course, if you resonate with what I'm going to share with you on today's episode, please feel free to reach out and look at the links below this video. As I continue this discussion. And so you may be watching this video on YouTube or on Spotify, but understand it is also being distributed on all the other podcasting platforms. So there is going to be some information that I'm going to share with you where I may share my screen, but I just thought about it. I didn't prepare that information, so I won't be sharing my screen, but you may be actually seeing me as I do this podcast. So today, I want to talk about understanding fix and flip loans for real estate investors. This is a topic that I don't think gets enough discussion. And the reason why I say it doesn't get enough discussion, a few months back, I talked about, I'm going to talk a lot about to the, you know, to, for the remaining part of 2024, talking about asset based lending. I talked about DSCR loans. And so I want to talk a little bit about fix and flip loans because I see what I see with a lot of primarily new real estate investors is really their lack of understanding of how fix and flip loans work. And so my goal is not to give you the tangible information that you can get off of many other channels on YouTube. I mean, of course, people talk about the LTV and the LTC and the rehab portion and all those other things. And don't get me wrong, it has its place, but in this discussion, I'm going to talk about some things that are not widely talked about. And it has to be with the intangible, soft things that many investors overlook, primarily new real estate investors. And so I'm going to talk about some things that are not widely talked about because a lot of investors just they don't know what they don't know. And on this online space, when you have a lot of people who are telling you, and of course, one of the things that I specialize in is creative financing, putting together unsecured financing with asset based lending for real estate investors to be able to expand their portfolio. But one thing that I notice in this space is that you have people who want to talk about the unsecured credit portion and they want to put it with the fix and flip marketplace. And although it does have its place, a lot of the information is really not available for use for the real estate investor, for the person who wants to actually take that tangible information and use it in real life. That's usually not the case. The reason why I say that is because most people, when they talk about unsecured business credit, and I know, just hold off on me, I'm gonna get to the fix and flip loans place. But a lot of people speak from the point of when it comes to business credit, they're going to talk about building your credit, getting you some credit cards. And then when you get to that high optimal credit score, we're going to now introduce you to real estate. I've said it before and I will say it again. That's not how it works in the real world when it comes to asset based lending. So I find that people will get blurbs that they got from a webinar or maybe from a master class, and then they're now trying to bring this information together in a tangible sense for them to be able to leverage it to use in real life. And of course, as I always say, there's a lot of missing pieces. A lot of people don't give you context to what it is that they're doing. One, they may have never did it. And number two, if they have did it, it may have only worked for that particular situation, which is why I'm a big advocate of telling people, if there is a strategy that you resonated with, that you believe in your heart of hearts that it worked, by all means, you hold that person responsible for guiding you on how it works in real life. And I know a lot of people like, oh no, it's not that person's responsibility to show them. Well, my thing is this: if you resonate with the methodology, then you only owe it to yourself to learn more about that. Because what a lot of people do not tell you, and this is where the fix and flip piece comes in, and I've said it with DSCR loans. Every fix and flip lender is not the same. And that is why when you have a guru or credit specialist telling you what they were able to do, unless you are working with that particular lender, because the things that they may not tell you, they may not have explained to you what's their experience level. They may not have told you have they did other fix and flips, so they give you a blurb of an idea, but in real life with no context, you don't really know how it works. And when it comes to the fix and flip world, and if you go to my DSCR videos, I talk about every fix and flip lender is different. You can go to your most polished, your most well known, your most famous mortgage person that you follow online and offline. And if all they do is residential real estate, and they don't do no investor loans, meaning they're not in the trenches, they're not writing up a loan packages to get approved. If they're not doing any of that work, then what they're telling you only really applies based on their exposure with one relationship that they may have with one fix and flip lender. A lot of times that is the case. A lot of times you'll have a person who is very well knowledgeable in FHA and VA loans and USDA loans and everything residential. By all means, I tell people all the time, FHA in Virginia is the same in New Jersey as the same in Washington State is the same in Hawaii. The guidelines are the guidelines. They're governed by the government. When you get into investor loans, asset-based loans, DSCR, fix and flips, portfolio loans, the list goes on and on and on. That is not straight across the board. So I can be the famous mortgage broker who does all day, every day residential mortgage loans. If I'm not doing investor loans on a daily basis, and of course, most investors, I mean, most mortgage professionals who are in the asset-based space work with multiple lenders. Now, they may work with one or two, maybe three or four, five or six, whatever the case may be. But everyone will tell you that the lending requirements of what that lender requires is going to be different. It's not no straight across the board. Are there some nuances that could be straight across the board? Yes, but not all, not everything. And so I say this to say that is where the confusion lies. That's why I said I'm going to talk about the things that are not said when it comes to understanding fix and flip loans. So, with me giving you all that background information, I'm going to go into things that you may not have been told by your real estate coach, by your guru, or what have you. If you are that person that is saying, I want to leverage real estate, I want to be able to do fix and flips, DSCR, but of course, the conversation tonight is only fix and flips. And of course, I want to use other people's money, then this message is for you. Because what I know is that there's not no one size fits all when it comes to investor loans. It's not. And so I can always tell when a person is not familiar with the investor loan conversation or have never used it, because one of the things that they lead with is what's the interest rate and the points, what have you. Don't get me wrong, it has its place. But if you are a new investor, meaning you have never did fix and flip loans before, you have no history of work, you have no investments that you have ever did before, meaning have you did rehabs, do you have some type of work history, do you have a body of work? Starting with interest rates is not going to be applicable. I tell people all the time, oh, Lorelia, what's the rate? Okay, a fix and flip loan. I have a lender who will start at 9%. I have a lender who, will start at 9.5. But let me tell you this, if you are new to fix and flip loans, you're not going to get that rate, because that rate a lot of times is for a seasoned professional. Now, don't get me wrong, everything is negotiable. Remember, I said I'm not going to talk about the tangible things. I'm going to save that for another video in terms of credit and all this other stuff. I'm talking about the intangible things that you may not know. And if you are looking to get into the investor space, it is important for you to get knowledgeable with understanding how investor loans work. If you notice what I said, get knowledgeable. One of the things that I find, and I can't beat this home enough, if you are looking to go into the investor loan space, it is nothing like residential loans. With residential, you have your real estate agent. They have a relationship with a mortgage lender. They may have worked with that mortgage lender, once or twice or what have you. And they know what the mortgage lender requires. And so they can hold your hand through the whole thing. If you have now put on the hat that I want to now be a real estate investor, and I want to be able to use other people's money, fix and flip loans, list goes on and on and on, you're not going to get that hand holding. Even if you were to get a property off the MLS, the pool of agents that do understand the nuances with fix and flip loans or DSCR is very small. It gets even smaller depending on your market. You can't assume that here I'm in a New Jersey market. I can tell you right now, the pool of agents who really do rehabbing themselves, or they wear the hat of an investor where they're doing their own fix and flips, they are not holding the hand of a new investor saying, I'm going to share with you every little step. And so what happens is that the investor doesn't know where to start. They're thinking that is going to be like the residential space. So they may have even bought a home. They may have their own primary home. And if they remember, they had a primary agent who showed them a few houses. We're not even going to talk about the whole, changes with, the NAR and all that stuff in the settlement. But we're just talking about you got a real estate agent. They showed you some homes. They partnered with you with a mortgage person, or you found your own and you went through the necessary steps to be able to get pre qualified and pre approved, and then you went in and looked for a house. Well, the investor space doesn't work that clean, doesn't work that easy. And so what happens is that you have new investors who are sitting on the sidelines thinking that the lender, whether it's a hard money lender or asset-based lender, who's going to assist them step by step on how to get this mortgage, or I should say mortgage, this financing to be able to do their deal. It's not going to work. It's not going to work like that. So the first thing I always tell people, once again, if you want to use other people's money, and if you see me looking down, it's because I wrote some notes because I want to make sure I stay on task. What do I need to do to get financing for this particular rehab? It is so important for new investors to really try to build a relationship with a lender to understand their product mix, and then also so they will know what is needed for them to be able to leverage other people's money. That is why I said when you have people online who, from a salacious standpoint, tell you about, oh, you can use business credit and all this other stuff, if it's not done favorable for the lender who is going to finance your fix and flip, you're not going to get no money. And there are some markets where a credit card can handle it all. I understand. I have clients who are in markets where real estate is cheap, and yeah, maybe a credit card can handle everything. But there are some markets, like here in New Jersey, New York, the Northeast, the California, maybe even the Miami, where probably gonna need some lending. You're not gonna do everything on a credit card. And so when you get a sound bite of, I'm going to use some business credit, unsecured business credit, and I'm going to get an investor loan, and I'm going to do this fix and flip, and then I'm going to be a real estate millionaire next year. And then you wondering why it don't all pan out the way that you heard it on the webinar, that you heard it in the masterclass, that you heard, on the live stream. It's because it doesn't work like that in real life. And that's why I always tell people that you could take your most successful rehab real estate investor. They got the experience, they got the receipts, they can show you a body of work. But at the end of the day, they can even give you their lender. You hear that. Oh, I'm going to get you the person that worked with me. If you have no experience, unless that person, whether it's a guru, a coach, unless they are saying that I'm a partner with you on the deal, and when I say partner, I don't mean in a passive way, meaning because there are documents that have to be put in place. Like I said, this video is not, I'm not going to go into all the hard things like LLC agreements and all this other stuff, unless they are willing to put their John Hancocks down and say, you know what, we're locking arms and we are partnering on this. You're not going to get their terms. You're just not. That's why I didn't say it in the beginning, but this video is not going to be a salacious video. And if you know me, I don't do things that, tickle your fancy, make you feel good inside, because I understand the importance of, if you are really trying to do this on, I'm not even gonna go on a big level, on a level that you can get some traction, meaning, hey, I've made a decision that in the remaining part of 2024 or into 2025, depending on when you see this video, that I am going to start my real estate investing career. I'm looking to do this for the long term, and I want to put some things in place to get me on the right trajectory. Then this content, what I'm sharing with you, is for you. Because other than that, 5 years will go past. I tell people all the time, do your Googles. Do your Googles. I have been saying the same thing, whether it is popular or not, since 2018, about leveraging business credit. Hasn't changed. It's timeless. Hasn't changed. What isn't timeless is tricks that can never produce. So going back to, was the first thing that an investor or a soon to be investor needs to do if they want to get a fix and flip loan, is what do they need as a person, as an entity, to get financing. Some of the things that the lender may say, I mean, of course, you need the asset. That is what a lot of people don't tell you. See, most newbie people are going to try to go and get financing. Before you can get financing, when it comes to asset-based lending, you need the asset. See, in the residential world, you get the financing first and then you go look for the asset. But in the investor world, whether it's DSCR, whether it's fix and flip, whether it's portfolio loans, the asset comes first. So you need to at least have the asset. If you want a term sheet, for that person, like, well, what's the rates, what's the points, or whatever, you don't even have an asset. So when the question is, what do I need to have as a person and an entity to get a loan? Let's just start there. You got to have an asset. Then number two, you want to be able to underwrite that asset. See, that's the part that the guru or the expert don't tell you. They'll tell you some salacious things about the business credit, and you're going to get this, you're going to use that. But what they don't tell you is you need to know how to underwrite a deal. Going back to what I said about the real estate agent, it's not like residential where he or she's going to sit down with you. You and that person is going to go through the intricate details of the home. Doesn't work like that in the investing space. Even if it's an agent who's doing deals and they're an investor on the side, they're not going to spend their time going through the nuances of a deal unless they are doing some consulting on the side. And I don't even know if that's legal for real estate agents, but that's the only way that I can see that happening, that they literally are coming on board as a consultant to you to show you how that's being done. So number one, what did I say? You need to know, what is it required of you to be able to get into a deal? What's required of you? It could be, of course, credit score. No one wants to talk about it, but what does credit score mean in the scheme of investor loans? Yes, you hear about, oh, it's based on the asset. It's not based on. Understand, the credit score plays a part to be able to get you rate and the terms. Call a spade a spade. A lender has to know what rate to get you. So if you're saying, I want the best rate, you said, you're advertising 9%, I want 9%, then we need to see your credit. Mr. Investor, new investor, or Miss Investor, your credit has to be shown because that's going to give you the rate and is going to give you the terms. And then it also, the part that no one talks about, it has to do with character. Yes, real estate, your credit score has to do with character. Yes, a lender is going to take that into account. They want to know how you, as an individual, have been paying your other creditors because at the end of the day, habit is habit, behavior is behavior. No one wants to talk about it. It's real easy to talk about all the other salacious, great things, but nobody wants to talk about that. So once again, they're going to talk about, your credit. Number one, they're going to ask you about cash available. What cash do you have available? And I know you're saying, oh no, 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 no. See, my guru, my expert told me, no, no, they don't put nothing on the deal. They don't pay nothing. A lot of times they come to the table, at closing and a check is being cut for them. Hello, you are new. That's not going to be your case. That's not going to be your case. And I'm going to be the person who's going to tell you this, because other than that, you're going to be spinning your wheels, wondering how are people doing deals. So number one, we talked about credit. We talked about entity structure is the easiest. Like that's very simple. You have your LLC, you got your operating agreement. If you are with a partner, of course, that partner needs to be in that operating agreement, but that's a very small part. But of course, you need to have cash on hand. Because once again, asking the question, what do I need? Because a lot of people feel like there are some lenders where it's hard money or asset-based lending does not lend to new investors. And number one, I think from my standpoint, with the lenders that I work with, it really depends. It's nothing straight across the board, but it really depends because the new investor requires a lot of hand holding. Because this video right here is just talking about how to even get to the point of getting a term sheet. We're not even talking about approval, because these are some of the things that you need to just have in place to say, how do I even get into the game? We're not even talking about you getting approval, the draw schedule, and you proceeding to do your fix and flip. We're just talking about, what do I need to do to just get into the game? Because a lot of people don't even know what's necessary to get into the game. And so they want to get into the game based on what they've heard their expert who they're talking to with, or or the guru who's doing, and by all means, I think people really do mean well, because they're at a place in their career where they're not possibly putting out a big financial outlay. So they're really telling you things from their standpoint, meaning this is what I did. I recently just had this experience about a week ago. I was on a local networking Zoom with real estate investors, and the person who was running it, the question came up from a new investor about, I want to get into fix and flips and what's required. And the person who runs it, there's their thing, gave them their answer. But the problem with that is that answer is really related to how they did it. So unless you have the variables of what they had, and they mentioned about they got little money from a relative, they had access to a credit card, they also went to an event and met some people. And unless you have those variables like that, that's the only way that you can replicate that experience. That's why I go back to, if you want to use the OPM, other people's money, and and you're trying to go to a funding source like a lender who specializes in asset-based lending or hard money lender, you need to know what is required of you. Hence, what I talked about, structure at LLC, your credit score, money on hand, because what's not talked about, a lender, when it comes to asset-based lending, is trying to mitigate their risk. At the end of the day, they are trying to mitigate, if I lend this money out, does this person have the ability to pay me back? Does the asset have the ability to conform to what it's trying to conform? Because when it comes to fix and flips, it's probably looking like one thing, and then now it has to be converted to look into something desirable. And now we're talking about, what's the next step? Is it going to be a cash out refi at the end? Is it going to be, is it going to sell to an end buyer? All those things are required. So going back to, what is it that you need to have as a new investor, that conversation is important to have. It's not readily talked about. And I see, when I go to the local events here in my community and backyard, I see a lot of investors just spinning their wheels, wondering who is going to crack this code on what I need to do to get financing to get into this space. And that is why it is important to know, find a lender. If I'm going to sum all this up, find a lender that you resonate with, that you want to work with. Could you get referrals from investors in the area? Of course. You go to your local RIA, there are plenty. You can go online on a Google search, there are plenty. But then at some point, you need to have the discussion of, because even if you talk to other investors who are working with certain particular lenders, this is what people don't tell you. The terms they get may not be your terms. And even if they tell you their terms, you may not get those terms, especially if you are new and straight out the gate. You have no history of doing no rehabs. You have no body of work. Now you understand the question I said in the beginning. What is necessary of you, and what is it that you have? Because I'm a big advocate of letting new investors know, hey, I work with these particular lenders. They will lend to newbie investors, but this is what's required. This is what's required. They are looking to see financially, can you even cover the financial obligation that's necessary to do this fix or flip? Please don't tell me about the investor who all their costs are roll into the loan. They don't make no interest payments. Everything happens at the end. You need experience to do that. But if that is something that you're desiring, then you need to go to that lender and ask that question. I'm a new investor. Never did no deals. Don't have no history of doing no deals. Don't have no body of work. Never did construction. Never worked on a construction site. Don't have no construction history, but I want to be a real estate investor. And can I have this, that, and the other? And you can run down all those great things that you've heard your guru, your expert, maybe even your coach tell you. Bam, 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 bam. And then ask them, will you have the ability, if you work with them, to do those things? Let them tell you. And that's if you get the opportunity to even go that detail with them. Because once again, and this is something that's not talked about, a lot of lenders don't want to work with newbie investors because of the amount of hand holding that needs to be done. So that's why they'll tell them partner with someone who has experience doing fix and flips, partner with a construction person who has experience in project management and construction. Because what they're not going to do is allow you to play monopoly with their money. And that is what that is what your credit gurus and all these people want to tell you when they say, oh, we're going to use business credit and other people's money, and we're going to get you in your next fix and flip. And they have never seen it. And this is what I tell people: the fact that I work with people with getting them financing and lending, I have seen different scenarios. I've seen different scenarios. So that's why when people say, "Oh, have you did any fix and flips?" I'll be honest, never did one. Have never did one. Don't have no desire to do any. But I understand how to underwrite them. And if you think that it is necessary in order to get financing that you need to have experience with, like, I said that wrong. If you think that the precursor to getting financing for a fix and flip is that the person that you are getting the loan from has to do a fix and flip, good luck with that. Because many of those lenders, whether it's hard money, asset based, have never did a fix or flip, have never did rehab. Do you have your outliers? Yeah. You have some who were, rehabbers at one time, and now they've transitioned and they're in the financing place. But a lot of them have never did. So be very careful of people telling you that in order to listen to someone, they have to have did a fix or flip. Financing and doing a rehab is two different things. Like it's two, and that conversation is only for newbies, because seasoned professionals who did this and continue to do this, a lot of my clients I've worked with, they understand that they don't do financing. Do they understand some of the nuances? But they also know that every lender, when it comes to the investor space, is different. It is only the newbie investor who thinks there's one way to do everything. And that's only because they understand residential, whether they bought a home or they're working or listening to a residential FHA, VA, loan per a 203K, but that's not how the investor world works. And so I want to leave you with, and like I said, this was not a technical, LTV, LTC. I can do a video on that and that can come, but this is really to talk about the unsaid things that are not said, but you need to understand if you want to get a fix or flip loan. And if I can reinforce what I just said, first thing I said was find a lender you want to work with, try to build a relationship, find out what is required of you as a new investor. Be honest, let them know, because they're going to do their homework. I don't care how you want to make yourself seem like you got the experience, they're going to know. These lenders are not out here just giving out monopoly money. So be honest, let them know. I have no experience. And then once you're very clear on you have no experience, now you can have the conversation of, with me not having no experience, what's required of me to get the financing from you to be able to do this fix and flip loan. And they may tell you, you may need to partner with someone. You may need to be able to put more skin in the game. Like and I can't speak for all of them, but they will literally say, this is what's needed. I know for me, that is one thing that I do. I go to a lender. If I'm working with a particular lender, do you work with newbies? I know there are some asset-based lenders that I work with, they do not work with newbies. So I would never present a deal for them to get financing because I know they don't work with newbies. But if it is a asset-based lender that I know that do work with newbies, I will give them the necessary information that needs to be done. And I'm just going to do a whole separate video on the underwriting of a deal because that is a very pivotal piece. And I think that right there is why many investors who are new never are able to accomplish what it is that they want to accomplish when it comes to getting the fix and flip financing to do their first rehab. They don't know how to underwrite a deal. There's no asset-based lender who's going to sit down with you and hold your hand and show you how to underwrite your deal. That, my friend, you have to do. And your real estate agent, if you happen to buy something off the MLS and it kind of works number wise, they're not even going to tell you. And if they are in a real estate agent slash investor, I know they pay for their time. I know I know you're going to have to pay for their time. I know they're not just doing that because it is things that is required in order to underwrite a a um a a deal when it comes to fix and flip loans. It's not widely talked about. And if you want to know what separates those who are doing deals versus those who are not, is their ability to underwrite their own real estate deals. That is what I have been working with my clients for years when it comes to leveraging credit and being able to pair it with asset-based lending. This is the stuff that I never really talk about on YouTube. You would not know this unless you worked with me. That's why I tell people I'm not doing what these other people are doing. Most people, they're telling you you're gonna leverage credit and get into real estate. It's either or. You gonna repair your credit, you gonna get some credit cards, you possibly can get some trade lines, and then you're gonna learn real estate. And that's why I said you're spinning too many plates. And a lot of times that doesn't work, but I can save that for another video. That is not what I want to talk about today. So I want to leave you with that is what separates the professional to the non-professional. Knowing how to underwrite your own deals. And if you have never did a deal, learning how to underwrite your own real estate deal, being able to, whether it's DSCR, fix and flips, is something that you need to be building that muscle because that is what's going to be necessary if you really want to create this portfolio that you're trying to create. And that is why I see so many investors spin their wheel and never get started because they're thinking that someone is going to do it for them, and they're not. You got to seek the information. Even me, someone who is in the financing space, work with people with leveraging credit. I continue to do continuing education with understanding product suites, understanding different lenders a portfolio of financing that they provide. And I'm in the space and I'm talking to different people on a daily basis with different situations. And you think you're going to go to one master class, one webinar, and think you're going to get it? It's not going to work out like that. So make the remaining part, I'm going to leave you with this. The remaining part of 2024, 2025, I will continue talking about asset-based lending. Make it your goal. If this is what you really want to do, you want to be able to build out a real estate portfolio. Learn the numbers of the deal, and understanding the numbers has to do with underwriting a deal. It's so much different than the residential space. This part is unglamorous, I'm going to tell you, but it's very rewarding and it allows you to have more control, understand all the moving parts, that when you are ready, because when you have that conversation with a lender and you ask them what is required and they tell you something, now you can hold a more tangible question. Because a lot of times you can ask that question, you're going to get something very surface. But if you know how to underwrite a deal, that means you're looking at deals that are actually, whether they're from a wholesaler, whether you found out about it at a Rio, whether you saw it online, whether you saw it on the MLS, nothing is stopping you from being able to underwrite your own deal. And now you can have a more confident conversation with an asset based lender instead of just saying the can responds, "What's your rates? Any points?" Like that. That's just something that people just do to feel like they're smart, and it don't have no place. Like lenders can sniff that out. They know you're a newbie, because no seasoned investor is starting out no conversation of "What's your rates? Do you got points?" But hey, but like I said, I this online space is real weird. So I want to leave you with that. I know, oh man, I went way over time, and because there's so much that I can really unpack with this topic. But like I said, I wanted to talk from an intangible place, not the canned information that you can find on any, you could do a search on fix and flips on loans on YouTube, and you can find a ton of information. But for those who are watching, thanks for staying, tuned in for the 45 minutes that I've been talking about this topic. And like I said, want to give another shout out to my sponsor today, Leverage Portfolio Capital, specialist in asset based lending for real estate investors. If you want to learn more about me, Lorelia, and how I help investors be able to leverage creative financing to do more deals, or our sponsor, Leverage Portfolio Capital, all the links will be below. If you're watching on YouTube, links below the video. And if you're watching it on Spotify or the other podcasting platforms, the links and the information will be there. Don't forget to subscribe. And I forget on the podcast what they do. I guess you follow or whatever. But anyway, this is Lorelia. Like I said, my goal is to talk more about this. Not from a salacious standpoint, from a very real standpoint, because these are the things that's not talked about. And it's the reason why I see a lot of people spinning their wheels. They will never get traction because they don't know what is necessary. And I also want to share with you, I'm going to try to do that video soon. Sourcing our own deals here in New Jersey. What I'm doing is I'm finding a lot of investors who are, if you're in the New Jersey market, want to put this out, this promo for New Jersey investors only, or for those who want to come to New Jersey. But New Jersey is not no cheap state, so I don't think if you in Louisiana, you looking to come up to New Jersey to invest. But if you are that person who invests in New Jersey, this message is for you. I'm sourcing deals. I find that many investors who are in position, who have the money to be able to do deals, they lack inventory. And so what I have did, because it's just a matter of turning that marketing engine on. We've turned that marketing engine on with some of the individuals that I work with, and we have deals coming in. So I'm going to be showing and showcasing a fix and flip that will be available soon as we finalize the paperwork with the person in charge of the property. I'll share some pictures on the next YouTube. That deal is a deal that someone can snatch up. And like I said, financing is available because, like I said, here in New Jersey, the one thing I enjoy about this state is that when it comes to the real estate world, is that you come into contact with people who actually have something to really leverage in terms of money. And so the money is there. The lack of inventory is not. And so I saw that there was a need for that. Definitely want to fill that lead. So we got that market engine going, and it's been doing good. So we know for 2025, it's going to look really good. So want to also put that promo out there. If you're in the New Jersey market, you're looking for fix and flips, we got it all in storage. So we're gonna have inventory and of course financing available for you. That particular fix and flip that we're hoping to finalize is a full gut. It's a full gut job, not for the newbie. I'll tell anybody, at least the lenders I work with, that that job will not be for a newbie investor. That's for a seasoned person. Here in New Jersey, we do a lot of added levels. You have investors who do added levels. For those who don't know what that is, that means that they take a little small home and they'll add pieces to it to make it bigger, build out the square footage, make it higher, what have you. So this particular home is a good candidate for that because it's in a very desirable part of New Jersey. If you're from the New Jersey market, Somerset County, very desirable. So it's a desirable area of New Jersey, blue ribbon school district. So the comparables will support that investor who wants to do an added level. And so there you have it. So this is your place. Like I said, I do this in real life. This is not no let me repackage and re-put together something I heard another person say. And so these are experiences that I deal with. Not no, I do this, but I kind of do that, and I'm gonna bring an expert in this. So once again, this is Lorelia Never Lose a Deal podcast. I look forward to talking to you in the next video. Thank you for those who have been watching. Bye bye.